focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks.
Welcome to the Wealth on the Beach podcast. My name is Daniel Alonzo, and as always, I'm bringing you some of the greatest minds on the planet. And we're talking business, we're talking money, we're talking health and wealth. And today, I get the privilege of talking to the incredible Justin Donald. He's the author of The Lifestyle Investor, the 10 Commandments of Cash Flow Investing for Passive Income and Financial Freedom. And he's also a podcast host. So excited. So tell us about the 10 Commandments, man. Why'd you write this book and what makes you the authority?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. It's fun to hang out here, Daniel. So, my story is interesting. I've been an investor for 22 years, but more of like an alternative investor for like the past 15 years. And what I was doing is I was trying to figure out, what is the commonality, the similarities of how I invest? Like, what are my criteria? Because I always talk to people about how you don't want to make emotional investments. You want to make investments that are sound, based on facts, based on, kind of black and white type of binary, yes, no type of decisions. And so as I was analyzing this, I wanted to write this book originally as a legacy piece for my daughter. One of my friends who has wanted me to write a book for years said, "Hey, Justin, why don't you, after many years of prompting from many people, and I just kept pushing it off, he said, well, why don't you just write it for your daughter? Because what would happen if you died and she never learned all this info?" And so that was really it. Like, that was the push that I needed. 2 days later, I was writing this book. And so it really started out as just something that I wanted her to have. And since I've been coaching for years, coaching clients to passive income and coaching just the aspect of financial freedom, I involved a lot of them in kind of what I taught, what their big takeaways were, what are some of the keys to them gaining this financial freedom. And so the book kind of encompassed all that, but I wanted it to rest on my criteria that I look for when I make an investment, because it's different than what most people have. It's different than what virtually anyone else I've ever met does. But it works for me because it's lifestyle first. And I just got tired of trading time for money and being a slave to a job or being a slave to a business that I thought that I once owned, but inevitably it ended up owning me. And I didn't want to be a slave to that. And
that's most people. I mean, there's a lot of people, especially right now, going through the pandemic and COVID and all the crap that's happening in the world. And people are really starting to wake up, I think, that, look, your job is not secure. I mean, you think you have a secure job when all of a sudden 20, 30 million people get laid off. You're pretty expendable, man. Things can change very, very quickly. And so people are starting to wake up. And I think this is becoming a really important subject. I mean, I talk about passive income, residual income all the time, but it's very, very important to me that people understand that, this corporate, working for a corporation end up being a nightmare at the end of the day. And so what you're talking about is right on. I love it. We're going to dive deep into this subject. I want to know about your 10 commandments. I want to really understand that. But as always, I always kind of like to take the audience into your life a little bit, into your childhood, actually. I want to know where you grew up, and I always like to know what your parents do or did, because I want to know kind of how you were raised. Were you raised rich or poor or middle class, or where'd you come from? Because I think it's important that the audience understands that so that they can get a feeling of, look, not all of us came from rich upbringing, right? Some of us came from different places, and we end up where we want to end up.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think some of the desire to have the success that I've been blessed to be able to have is because of that drive that I had of not having it. You know, I grew up very middle class, or, you know, I mean, you could probably even classify it as a little bit below middle class, but let's call it middle class. My mom was just basically a secretary at the church in some way, shape, or form for most of my life. And, you know, it was a very low paying job. I think she was making like 27 or 28,000 in the peak of her income. And my dad fixed appliances or sold cars. And it was one of those three things. So, you know, very much just kind of blue collar and, you know, nothing special. Had a cute little home. Believe it or not, my parents started living in a mobile home, so I don't have any memory of this, but that was the first home that they owned, and they were able to figure out how to, you know, move from that mobile home to a really, you know, small single family home. And so I saw that, but I also saw how hard my parents worked. And I love my parents. I got a great relationship with them. I think the world of them. I just talked to my mom earlier today. They were just wonderful, loving parents that gave me space to kind of live life and experience things on my own, but with some guidance. But I just knew that I didn't want to work as long as they worked, and I didn't want to work as hard as they worked. And I know that in order to provide the income that my dad later, when I got older, was providing to be able to move into this other home that was bigger. I mean, he slaved away at work and was working 6 days, long hours. I mean, he would have worked 7 days, except that at the dealership in where I grew up in Chicago, you couldn't work on Sundays. So
And so were you, what kind of kid were you? Were you a good kid? Did you get in a lot of trouble? Did you get good grades, bad grades?
I was definitely an achiever. So I got good grades. I didn't get into much trouble. I had a brother who didn't get good grades and did get into a lot of trouble. So I guess, you know, my parents had their, you know, their hard time with him, but he's turned out to be great, served our country, got straightened out, and just is an amazing human being. But he would tell you he definitely gave them a hard time. For whatever reason, I've been pretty self-motivated. You know, that one is definitely more of an innate thing. You know, I don't think that's learned. I think I just had a desire to do well, and it wasn't necessarily for other people's appreciation, though I like it and that helps. I just have a drive internally where I want to be able to do well at the things that I do, and I'm willing to commit the time. Sometimes I'm even obsessive about the time that it takes to master something or to at least be highly proficient at something.
And so where did it all start as far as like getting into your career? Like, did you have some odd jobs early on that kind of helped you? Did you have some mentors early on that helped you? How did your journey begin?
Yeah, so I for sure had odd jobs and I for sure had mentors. And I mean, I could start off here. What I remember having a conversation with my parents when I was in seventh grade that I wanted more money than I was getting for allowance. So luckily, you know, I at least had an allowance. And they said, well, you know, we're not going to be your bank. If you want to make more money, go get a job. And so as a seventh grader, you know, just a kid, you know, I'm going through the classifieds in the newspaper. I find this job that's like a commission only job, selling newspaper subscriptions door to door. I mean, you may not be able to do that today, you know, or at least let a seventh grader do it. I don't know what my parents were thinking, but you know, they let me do it, and I was horrible at first. I mean, when I heard no, man, I got doors slammed in my face. I mean, I was just a fragile kid, but I figured it out, and I ended up getting good at that job, and I ended up learning how to create scripts that I gave to other people. And then I eventually built out my own team doing that. So while I was in high school, I ran a team that would go door to door, and I'd make money off of each of them and they'd make their commission. So that's what I did until I graduated my senior year. And then I started working with Cutco, and I sold Cutco for all my college. That's how I paid for college. So I went to the University of Illinois. Shame that they didn't do anything like I thought they were going to do in the tournament this year. Breaks my heart. We were good for the first time in like 15 years, but Obviously not that good. But I went there and they were a great school from the standpoint of like a business program. They had a killer program because they utilize adjunct professors that really specialized in the thing that they taught. You know, it wasn't just someone coming in teaching like theory. They actually teach like, here's how to run a business because I'm an entrepreneur. Here's how to buy real estate because I buy real estate. And so that was helpful. You know, I got to learn.
That's I just got to say that's abnormal. I mean, in this day and age, I mean, you have college professors that they know nothing about the subject other than theory. They've never practiced business. They've never made any money in business. They've never been successful in business. And how the heck we could be paying them tens of thousands of dollars a year to teach our children how to become successful? It's wild. And by the way, I just want to say that I'm very similar, other than being a good kid. Okay, me and you got a very similar, path. And I was like you. I was so motivated to do something in my life, like some way, somehow. I wanted to do something great. And you're right. It is something I think that we're born with, or at least maybe as children, we see what maybe, we want. And then of course you can't have it because usually it takes money to have the things that you want. And because we want those things, we're willing to go pay the price. We're willing to be obsessed, like you said. I mean, I am obsessed with trying to accomplish and achieve the things that I want to achieve and accomplish. Nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of people they look at that word obsessed as being a bad word, but realistically, it's a wonderful word. As long as you're obsessed on something that matters, that's good, that's trying to help the world be a little bit of a better place. And so I love it. I love that story, and I love how you worked with Cutco, great company. We own the knives, by the way. And yeah, I think it's a great place where every young person should learn how to sell. They should learn how to, develop relationships and meet people and make new friends. And so Cutco kind of shaped you a little bit back then, yes?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I got such a great experience. So when I was in college, I got exposure to investing. And then in Cutco, I got exposure to entrepreneurship. And so, like, for example, one of the classes in college I got, it was arbitrage strategy. So we partnered up with the professor, and anytime that there was a deal that he liked from an arbitrage that we found in these mergers, acquisitions, spinoffs, he would put up the money and split the profits 50-50. So you were incentivized to do it. And this is a professional investor that came in to teach the course. And then I had a class where we got to invest $1 million of real money of one of our alumni. And we literally would, we'd set it up like we would meet as a class. Only 20 students out of the School of Business got selected. And we got to have meetings on whether we would add a stock, we would sell a stock, we would, whatever. And we ended up making money for this investor over, the course of that time. So and that was a year, it was two semesters. So just the experience of that gave me such an eye-opening insight into that world of investing. And then on the Cutco side, I just really learned how to hustle, how to get paid for what you're worth, not based on time. Same thing with, my job prior to that. And then I got into the management ranks and did really well teaching and training people how to do it and building out large teams and covering kind of large geographies. And so that became my bread and butter. So as I started other companies, or I bought companies, or I scaled companies, or I would advise or consult, I had this experience to draw upon because of that time with Cutco. And then as I did my own startup and that, took off and succeeded, I had that experience for the companies that I would later advise. And, it just
And so what was your first, what was your first business? What was your first startup? What was your first investment? Tell us a little bit about those first.
Sure. Yeah. So the first startup is a company called IFM Restoration, and it's a single family home maintenance company. And so that company is one that really works on the largest portfolios of single family homes in the US. So it's like institutional grade ownership, and we work on their rentals. And we've done all different parts of that. where we've done rehabs and we've done turns, but the sweet spot for our company was in maintenance, and we were able to build out some proprietary technology around it and around the protocol. And so that company ended up doing really well, had S3 Ventures out of Austin, which is the largest Texas VC invest in us. And that was a really big Series A raise that we did. And so that company's doing really well. And since then, I've had the privilege of buying some companies, scaling companies, selling companies. And so it's been neat. But that was the first. And then the first investment that really took off for me was mobile home parks. So I had some friends that were, investing in single family homes, and that was kind of the thing. And I had a friend that was like, "Hey, I think I'm going to invest in mobile home parks." And I was like, "Man, you're crazy. That doesn't sound like a good investment opportunity." And after some time of researching the numbers and learning it and kind of watching what he did, I was like, "Oh man, this is no joke. Like, your cash flow is better. You can get a whole bunch of units with one fell swoop." It just made so much sense. So I remember thinking, okay, this is so scary. It actually kept me up at night. I was freaking out, like making my first investment into something like this. It's a big deal. But I also knew that if it went well, based on the numbers I had drawn out, my wife wouldn't have to work anymore. It would replace her income. And so that's what we did. I bought this first park and it replaced her income. She could be a
And
stay-at-home mom.
what type of money did you like? What did you invest that in? Because people are listening right now or watching right now on YouTube, and they're thinking like, what does it take to invest in something like that? So what you put up that first investment?
So with mobile home parks, like anything else, like any type of real estate, you could have a small property, you can have a large property. So the numbers vary. For me, my very first one was a $65,000 down payment. And that was a big deal at that time. And to a lot of people, it's still a big deal. But I'm telling you, that kept me up at night. And I just remember that. I remember thinking, am I crazy? Should I be doing this? I remember wake up in the night sweating, like, what am I doing? What am I like? Is this the right move? And finally, I was like, you know what? I got to get past my fear of the unknown. If other people have done it, and I'm going to just copy what they do, then I can do it too. And maybe I won't do it as well, but I'll do it well enough to make money. And that was it. And I just logically, I knew that. Emotionally, I had to trust my gut and I had to trust my mind.
And the good news is that in the United States, they do not take you to jail if you go bankrupt.
That's right.
So what allowed me to take lots of risks over my life is I always remembered that. I always remembered that I cannot go to jail for losing everything. And by the way, if I lose everything, I can always start over. I can always do it again. I can always give it another shot. And because of that, the willing to take risks, because without risk, there is no wealth. It's just not humanly possible to be able to not take risk and become wealthy, or to change your life in a meaningful way. And so, as far as like, I want to kind of dive into the book a little bit, The Lifestyle Investor. And I see, you guys that are listening, he's got a lot of books in back of him right now. So it's a little clue, right? I see Rich Dad, Poor Dad in there somewhere. There's a little clue to that. Success leaves clues. Winners, people that have become successful, they read, they listen, they learn, they get better. Matter of fact, it's nonstop. I am literally on YouTube every single day of my life. I'm not a big reader, but I'm a big YouTuber. I'm a big, I like to, and I also do audible.com. But I mean, how important is it that people continue to self-improve? And how much do you think you've invested into self-improvement over all of these years?
Yeah. So, I mean, I know what I've invested in it. I've calculated it. It's over $1 million that I have invested into myself and into my education. So it's a significant investment, and it sounds like a lot. Like, a lot of people are like, they might think, well, I don't have that kind of money. It wasn't it wasn't like I just ponied up $1 million. It was a little bit over a period of time. And when I didn't have as much, I just would always invest a portion of whatever I made into self-improvement and into my education. And it's so funny to me. Sometimes people will go to college and they'll pay, $40,000, $60,000 to go to school to, like, in most cases, not even use what they learned. But then when it comes to like investing $5,000 into their own education, they're like, oh, that's a lot of money. But it's not if it's going to the place that can amplify returns. So I'm a big reader, and a lot of my original mentors are authors because I didn't know where to get mentors from. Like my network, who I wanted to become, that's not who I hung out with. The people that I knew didn't have the jobs that I wanted to have. I didn't know any investors growing up. I didn't even know any entrepreneurs outside of one of my friend's dads, who, like, he came later in life. That was in high school, So to me, I had to find them through the people that I read. And I mean, I don't know where I would be without books. I read a ton. I read every day, literally every day of my life. I read, and I'm an avid reader of just. I don't even do a whole lot of fiction. I mean, I'm a nonfiction. I'm a content, and I love getting into some good YouTube stuff on content too. Don't get me wrong. And I love Audible. I think Audible is a game changer. YouTube and Audible are both game changers for education. But I'll easily consume 50 to 100 books a year, no problem. And my peak year, my biggest year, was 173 books.
Wow.
And that was like a reading challenge. So that's an
That's
abnormal year.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And again, there's no secrets anymore, I don't think. I mean, there's not a whole lot of secrets anymore. It's just, attaching yourself to somebody that's already done it. Because every single time I've made good investment decisions, it's because I've done my homework, I've listened to people that have already done it, and I've just tried to, like, I'm not afraid of copying people. Like, I have no, like, there's zero ego, for me at least, in copying somebody. If I think you're better than me in that certain area, I will snap that knowledge at it, steal that knowledge from you. I'll, tap into those brain cells, and then I will use that to my benefit. And the truth is, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, successful people have been doing that for a million years. And so, look, I want to dive in. I want to hear a couple of these, commandments, as you call them. And I want to hear what they are, and kind of give us a little bit of content on that.
Sure. Yeah. And by the way, just side note, you said, I don't think there's anything wrong with copying. I'd say that there's everything right with copying, right? Why reinvent something when you don't have to? You might as well perfect the thing that someone else has already perfected. And if you want to innovate, wait till you've perfected what they're doing, because you already know it works. So the trial and error doesn't even need to happen, right? You're bypassing what probably took this person you're copying years to figure out, and a lot of money to figure out. So I think it's the most intelligent thing you can do to copy someone else that has the playbook.
Because all my teachers, I used to get in trouble for that. I mean, I used to copy in class, and I used to get sent to the principal's office, and then they didn't tell me that one day I'm going to be a proficient copier. So,
well, the whole world of franchises is all based on that exact thing, and you've got some very successful entrepreneurs that live in this franchise world and have figured it out by copying what someone else has done. So if it works in franchises, why not let it work in any other area of business or investing or education, whatever it is that you want to do? Just find someone to mirror and model and go from there.
good stuff.
In regards to your question on the lifestyle investor commandments, so I'll just start real simple with the first one. It's lifestyle first. And I want people to figure out what the ideal lifestyle is for them. To me, it's being able to live a life where you own your time and you can choose who to spend it with and how long you want to spend it. And it's not to have no work. It's to be able to choose to do the work that you love on your timetable completely. And so I help people in this section of the book. I walk them through their freedom vision, and I help them kind of create what is important to them in terms of impact, like impact of relationship, impact of time, impact, so it's like all these, time freedom, relationship freedom, purpose. These are the things that I want to help people figure out. But I don't want to invest in a way that's going to cost me more time. I want to invest in a way that is going to leverage my time. It's going to get me a return with less time or eventually with no time. So that one is a really interesting and easy one. But to me, like that's what it's all about. I'm not investing for investment's sake. I'm investing to create the lifestyle that I desire, a life that is on purpose and not as a reaction to whatever is going on. Like it's by design, it's by intentionality, sitting down and mapping out what I want it to look like with my family, not just responding and reacting and putting out fires and solving problems.
And that I think that's the challenge with most people is they're kind of floating through life versus creating a life. And I think that all happens, January 1st. And again, any day could be January 1st, but it's January 1st for me where I can map out my entire year and know exactly what I'm trying to create, exactly what I'm trying to accomplish. Where most people, they just kind of float around life and they have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring. And they walk around saying cute things like just follow your passion and shit like that. And then they wake up 10 years from now and they go, well, hey, I got nothing accomplished because I was just following this thing that didn't give me any freedom, just gave me a lot of heartache, just gave me a lot of being uncertain. And I think that brings a lot of stress to a lot of people. What's one of the commandments that you could say that maybe is not as mainstream as most people would think?
Yeah, so there are several. So where I think that I differentiate from most investors is that the majority of my commandments are probably not mainstream, or they're things that people maybe don't even know are possible. So one of them, for example, commandment number 3 is finding invisible deals. And that one to me is like a huge game changer, to find deals that are off market or deals that aren't even for sale. But you negotiate it, because you know the right person, you have the right connections, or you're part of a group, and this group curates deals. I do this with my mastermind and with my private clients, and we do all kinds of deals. And then it's also paying attention to the trends. Like, are you just looking at what is good today, or are you trying to predict and project what's going to happen, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Like, what are the hot markets? What are the disruptors and transformers of industries? What can software do that totally is a game changer for something that today is the status quo, but isn't going to be, or something needs to be improved, or shifting from retail to e-commerce, or cannabis, or music royalties, or, I mean, there's just so many hot markets that are out there that exist, cryptocurrencies, blockchain. There's just so much innovation. And if you're paying attention to the trends, you can be on the cutting edge of some things before people get in as an early adopter. And there's just a ton of opportunity there.
So I'm going to stop you right there real quick because somebody asked me. I do a Wealth on the Beach club training and coaching every single week, every Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and somebody asked me about that this morning on the our live Q&A that we do every week, and they asked me about cryptocurrency. What's your thoughts about that? And do you have what percentage of your portfolio is in crypto right now?
So I think that cryptocurrency in general is a mixed bag. You've got alternative coins or altcoins that they might make it, they might not make it. I mean, you'll probably have more that don't make it than that do make it, but the ones that make it are going to be game changers because it's an innovation that's needed. I think Bitcoin itself is a great investment or a great hedge. I don't even want to call it an investment. If it ends up being an investment, great. I would look at it as a hedge to a devaluing dollar that is devaluing every day as they're printing more and more money. And it's just a lot more convenient than gold. And there's more utility in it than gold. So to me, I wouldn't look at it as like you put all your chips in it. I just think, what if you put 0.5% to 5% of your portfolio into it, depending on your risk tolerance and level of understanding and comfortability? You're probably not going to, like, let's just say 1% of your portfolio. If it goes to zero, you're probably going to be all right. You're not even going to notice it. But if it goes to double where it is, that's a significant play to, if it goes to 10x or 100x. So those are, I really like to invest in a way where I'm not exposed to too much risk, but the return is really big. So yeah, I think that that's a good opportunity. And I think that today we have this archaic banking system that hasn't innovated in the longest time. Like you have to go to a bank physically to do stuff like, or you can't send a wire on the weekends. What? Like you, because it's a Saturday, it's 3 a.m. on a Saturday and you have no way to transact money. But you can with other mediums, So to me, it's the innovation that we're needing, because we should be able to have some form of commerce or exchange that happens 24/7.
And it's not stopping. I mean, the innovation, the technology, if you don't wrap your head around this stuff, guys, I mean, honestly, you're going to get left behind. I tell the people that I coach all the time that, look, you're going to be a dinosaur. And it's not going to be in like 10 years. It's going to be, you're going to be a dinosaur in 3 years. I mean, this is happening very, very quickly. They say that the technology in a computer, every 3 months, it's like doubling. I mean, the rate of innovation and technology is astounding, and we have to be on the cutting edge if we're going to stay relevant as leaders, as business people, and as investors. What's another commandment that we might be interested in hearing about?
So this one is one that most people come to me and say, wow, I never considered this. And that is my fourth commandment. So that one is to get your principal back quickly. And so the way I invest, I like to invest in shorter term investments that I can get my money back in a year, 2 years, maybe even 6 months, and negotiate some sort of equity so I still have upside. So I get my money back, I have upside, so all my risk is gone, but I still can make an exponential return, but I can take those same dollars and recycle them into another investment. So ultimately what can happen, let's say I do a 1-year deal. Let's say it's a real estate deal. And I'm able to have, refi out of that property in 1 year. It could be a syndication. It could be, it could be your own deal, but in 1 year, you get all your money back. Well, now you have equity and you take that same, let's call it $100,000 and you invest it in a debt deal. It's a 1-year note and you negotiate an equity kicker in that deal. So you have equity for free. You get all your money back plus the interest over the course of the year. You have cash flow, which is my commandment 5, always get cash flow, immediate cash flow. And so you're cash flowing this thing while you're basically growing an equity position, and then you're getting that money back again and you can invest in another deal. And so let's say I take that same $100,000 back on that note, and then in year 3, I invested in a 1-year deal in an operating company like I just did. But I set up an accelerated distribution schedule where 80% of the returns come back to me until I'm fully paid back. Then it reverts to whatever the equity split is. So, I just bought a dog training company out of Kansas City called KC Dogs. And I don't know anything about dogs. I don't own a dog. I just noticed a lot of people are buying dogs. And so they're going to need to train them. And I figured this would be a great business to buy. And coincidentally, Patrick Mahomes also thought that this was a good idea and trained his dog at our business. So that was really cool. But that I have all my money out of that deal. I put, it was what, $130,000 down, but I got $130,000 in less than 6 months back. And so all my risk is out of the deal, but I have equity. And now I can take that same money and do it a 4th time and a 5th time and so on and so forth. So that one, most people will invest in the stock market long term, or they'll do this risky equity investment in a company that probably isn't going to make it, or they'll do it in a venture fund that's a 10-year hold, or they'll do it in a real estate or land deal that doesn't even cash flow. And they don't know if they make money for 10 years. And hopefully they do make money, but there's just no utility. I want utility of those funds, and I want to be able to compound my returns.
Good stuff, man. This is very, very interesting. I could probably keep you here all day, but we really appreciate your wisdom and your knowledge today, Justin. This is highly valuable. There's no question about it. Get in your book. I want to devour that sucker for sure. There's stuff in there that we can all learn. And so if you're listening or watching right now, I want you to follow Justin. Okay, so tell us how we can get a hold of you, how we can follow you. And I know that you're a coach as well. So who knows, maybe somebody out there right now that's listening or watching, they're going to say, hey, I want to, I want to get a hold of this guy and I want him to coach me. So what does that look like? Share with us a little bit about what that looks like and how we can get in touch with a guy like you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as far as my coaching is concerned, it's a wait list only right now. And it is, I would just say it's a pretty high price point. So it's not the right fit for most people, but I do have other programs that are very unique to what I do. So first and foremost, for anyone that wants to get the book, you can go to lifestyleinvestor.com/book, and you can get it for free. You just pay for the shipping. So that's one thing that I'd love to do for your audience. And I do want you to know, whether you buy it there or you buy it on Amazon, that all the proceeds of this book go to charity. They're going to a company, an organization called Love Justice International that is fighting human trafficking in 17 countries around the world. So everything, that is book related all goes towards that. And then you can also go to justindonald.com and you can check out some of the other products I have. I've got an online course. I've got a master class. I've got a mastermind. I've got a podcast that has some really awesome people with, just unbelievable strategies, great success. But any of those are available. And it's just a lot of fun. So the community that we've curated is a very amazing group of people that I think anyone would enjoy connecting with.
Well, I work with a company that has 136,000 people in it. So I just want you to know you're going to get a lot of people checking you out and following you. And this is good stuff. I really do appreciate your time, Justin. Anything I can do to help you in the future, just always, keep that in mind. We're here for you. As always, everybody, make sure that you dream bigger and get after it. Make sure that you don't forget to do it now. God bless you. We will see you at the top.